Welcome to my Yoga Physiotherapy for the Pelvic Floor series. So the pelvic floor are the muscles that fill the inside of your pelvis. So here's your pelvis here. If you look from above down onto your pelvic floor are these muscles that fill the pelvis here. Those muscles move with breath in a certain way. So I'm going to teach you that so you can use those principles throughout the yoga practice. So here's my little drawing. So this is your abdomen here. So the whole area that contains your digestive tract, your belly button's in the middle. So this top curve, that's your respiratory diaphragm. And this bottom green curve, that's your pelvic floor. So as you breathe in, your respiratory diaphragm actually moves down, and that's so that your lungs can fill with air. What happens is your pelvic floor or your pelvic diaphragm also moves down. And that downward motion is actually a lengthening and relaxing movement of that pelvic floor. And then as you breathe out, the reverse happens. So as you breathe out, respiratory diaphragm comes up, air expels from the lungs, and your pelvic diaphragm moves up. So your pelvic floor moves up and it actually tightens a little bit as you breathe out. So I'll remind you of this several times throughout the practice. Let's get started with the practice. This yoga physiotherapy for the pelvic floor series should take about 15 minutes. It's an introductory series. If at any time the posture does not feel good for you, or it creates an increase in symptoms, just move out of that posture, lie on your back or go into child's pose. Find somewhere that's comfortable for you. So we're going to start this practice by sitting. So find a comfortable seat. Cross-legged might feel good for you, it might not. Move your tissue out of the way from your sit bones so you can feel your sit bones rooting you into the earth as much as possible. And I'll invite you to close your eyes. Just start checking in with your body. Notice how your body is arriving at the mat today. Notice how you're breathing. If you're holding any tensions anywhere. Bring your awareness in particular to your pelvic floor. So those muscles on the inside of your sit bones. Notice if they're tight and they're sitting high, or if they're relaxed and they're just hanging low. When you're ready, start to deepen your breath. Try to breathe all the way into your belly. In through your nose and out through your nose. And see if you can start checking in with that movement I mentioned at the beginning. As you breathe in, see if you can feel that downward motion of the pelvic floor. So it should feel like your muscles in between your two sit bones touching the mat are moving downwards towards the mat as you breathe in. If you're not sitting directly on the mat, you might be feeling that movement down into your block that you're sitting on, or if you're kneeling, down into your legs that you're sitting on. Trying to feel that downward motion with each breath in. And don't worry if you don't feel it yet. If you're doing the deep breathing, we know you're going to be getting some movement. So just focus on that breath. Always throughout the whole class, just come back to that breath if you lose it. You're going to be focusing much of your attention on your pelvic floor this class, on your pelvis. If your mind starts to wander throughout the class, just gently bring it back. Take this time to set an intention for your practice today. We'll now all together move to hands and knees. So in this position, you want your hands right under your shoulders, fingertips spread. You want your hips stacked right over where your knees are touching the mat. Option 2, cushion your knees if you need to. If this position isn't comfortable for you, you can do a modified version sitting in a chair. Tap into your deep breath again. And on your next inhale, you'll arch your spine and look up. And as you exhale, you'll round your spine and look down. Inhale, arch, look up, tilt your pelvis. Exhale, rounding. Inhale, arching your spine, tilting your pelvis. Exhale. And as you breathe in, I want you to think about opening your sit bones, trying to separate them, open your pelvic floor, and breathe out. Breathe in, think about your sit bones spreading wide, opening your anus. Exhale, round. Inhale, think about lengthening that pelvic floor away from your head towards your back of the room. Rounding. Inhale, open your sit bones, open your anus, lengthen your pelvic floor, and exhale, round. Option, if you're having trouble feeling the movement, you can place your fingertips on the inside of your sit bone. So you're placing your fingertips in between your sit bone and your anus. And see, as you breathe in and look up, can you feel your muscles pushing into your fingertips? If so, great. Place your hand back down. Inhaling, lengthening your pelvic floor. As you do this, you don't ever need to think about tightening your pelvic floor. As you breathe out and round into angry cat, your pelvic floor will tighten slightly. Keep going, and I'll just turn to show you that hand placement in case you want to try it out. So find your sit bone, fingertips just inside of your sit bone, and then as I arch and breathe in, I'm feeling my muscles actually push into my fingertips. And then as I breathe out and round, I can feel my muscles recoil away. I can feel them pushing into my fingertips here. And then as I breathe out, I can feel them recoiling. Good. Finish your last round of cat-cow, and then we'll meet on for Hands and knees again. Just take a moment to take a few deep breaths here. The next one we're going to do is called modified child's pose. So most people know a child's pose where you sit back and you rest down. At any point you can come into this posture if you need a rest. Otherwise, we're going to do modified child's pose. So we're going to sit back part way and then come back to the start. As you sit back part way, you're breathing in, lengthening the pelvic floor, and then you'll come back to the beginning, breathe out. Breathe in, sit back, opening your sit bones, lengthening your pelvic floor. Breathe out, back to the beginning. Breathe in, lengthen the pelvic floor, open your sit bones. Breathe out, back to the beginning. Good, breathe in, open, lengthen. Breathe out. Again, option to place your fingertips as you breathe in, sit back, lengthen the muscles into your fingertips, and breathe out. Breathe in, sit back, lengthen, breathe out. Breathe in, lengthen that pelvic floor, breathe out. It should feel like you're opening your anus as you lengthen. Sometimes it feels like you're having to really move those muscles downwards, and don't worry, that's okay. It might take a bit of time to get the hang of this because most people don't think about this downward motion of the pelvic floor. We're taught about Kegels so much, but not about the reverse. If you were using your right hand, switch sides, feeling on the inside of your sit bone, breathing in, sitting back. It's nice to have your fingertips here to have a little bit of feedback to know what you're doing. And if your mind wanders, just gently bring it back to your breath and to your pelvis. Last cycle, wherever you are. Place your hand back down. And then we're just gonna have a little rest in child's pose. So you can bring your knees apart if you like that more. Sit back, straighten your arms, rest your forehead down. And just have a little break. Remind yourself what the intention of your practice was today. And then when you're ready, we're going to slowly meet lying on our backs. If you need anything under your knees, feel free to grab that. I don't want there to be any pain in your lower back. So the pelvic floor is really important for also regulating bowel function. So digestion and bowel function can be impacted by the exit of the bowel. The pelvic floor forms the sphincters of the anus. So what I'll get you to do is hug your right knee to your chest. Pull it in as far as you can that feels comfortable. And what you're doing here, keep your breath going. What you're doing is you're actually applying compression to your ascending colon. On the right side is always important to do first when you do this posture. And in this position where you're stretching some muscles, your pelvis is in a different position, refine that breath. As you do your deep inhale, see if you can still open your anus and lengthen your pelvic floor in this position. And then slowly, gently release that right leg. You can windshield wiper it if you need to. And then we'll draw the left knee up to your chest, interlacing your fingers around your shin. And now we're compressing the descending colon. Finding your breath again. Feeling your pelvic floor open and lengthen on your inhale. Lots of poses are held during this practice to give you a chance to feel that pelvic floor movement. Gently release your left leg back to the ground. Windshield wiper with your feet if you need to. Just shake out the hip joint a little bit. We'll do happy baby next. Happy baby isn't comfortable for everyone. If it's not, you can do knees to chest, so just bringing both knees to your chest, interlacing your fingers around the front of your shins and hugging. But if you want to go into happy baby, feet can come up. You can grab the outside of your feet, or you could grab your big toes, whatever feels more comfortable to you. In this type of position, you're opening your legs, allowing your pelvis to open gently, getting a bit of a stretch in the inner thigh. And if it feels good, you could rock back and forth. You could rock forward and back, or you could just stay still. And again, in this move, in this breath, you're going to be trying to open your anus, lengthen your pelvic floor, to really get that pelvic floor opening as you hold this pose. Knees to chest is always available to you, or just lying flat on your back. The most important part of this practice is not losing that pelvic floor awareness. Downward motion as you breathe in, opening your anus. When you're done with this pose, you'll let your legs come in towards your chest slowly. Give yourself a nice big hug. Rest your legs down for our final posture of Savasana. Legs can splay as wide as you'd like, palms up, arms as wide as you'd like. Just allow your breathing to do what your body needs right now. You can still keep breathing deeply, or you can just breathe normally. And try to keep your mind as clear as you can. Maybe focus back on that intention you set at the beginning of practice. You can stay here as long as you would like. Keep going if you would like. Thank yourself for joining the practice today and paying attention to your pelvic floor. Namaste.